right. All right. Hi. Nice to see you, everybody. Good to be here. Don't know why that just ended. Oh, there we go. There we go. Welcome back. My name is Dean. Nice to see you as always. It is Wednesday. It is smoky in the beautiful city that I live in called Toronto as we are battling wildfires. That is Lochlin Cross. He is in Edmonton and I'm in Toronto. Everybody's here. Good morning. Welcome to the program. My name is Dean. Hi, everybody. Hi, Dean here. Dean.
Laundry day.
Dean Lochlin. No, I had a meeting. Why? You're like the 15th person to make fun of this shirt. So why don't you?
I just don't even know where to start. I said I was going to try to fix you today on the podcast. I don't even know. Now you've thrown this into the whole mix. I don't even know where to go. I think we're going to have to table the fixing thing because I got to rethink this.
Just because of my shirt?
It's awful.
What are you talking about? It's a great fucking shirt. It's a black shirt. Stay at home. It has avocados on it. Someone I happen to be maybe dating thinks it's the best shirt she's ever seen. No big deal.
That's exactly where I was going to go with this whole
Hang
on.
Let me say this.
She's dressing you now.
No, she isn't. No one dresses Dean.
What are you talking about?
Nobody puts baby in a corner.
You've got a fucking shirt with avocados on it.
I've owned this shirt for several months, and I've worn this shirt several times, but I don't wear it on the show because of this very reason. You understand what I'm saying? I don't wear this on the show.
You knew I was going to make fun of you. You should have changed. You should have changed.
I'm not changing. I fucking look great in this shirt. And it's one of those shirts. It's like, it's not just black. It's got like avocados on it. So it's a little green. It's got the avocado pits. There's some brown in it. I fucking look great. And you know what? Don't take my word for it. Take one of our guests, the host of the True North Eager Beaver podcast, Douglas. Douglas, chime in on the avocado shirt, please.
Ooh, you were brave. You went out on the limb there.
Yeah.
Because you assumed I would agree.
Yeah, I did. I assumed you'd agree because you're my friend, right?
You assumed correctly.
Regardless
of our friendship, you assumed correctly.
You're lying, Douglas.
No. Well,
you're
you know
totally
what?
lying.
Maybe it's just because it's such a change and it's a bold choice. But with the hair and glasses, it works.
With the hair and the glasses, it works. I don't know what that means. All I know is my black shirt has some green in it. That's a big step for this guy. Okay. And it's a button up. Another big step for this guy because I like to stay home base with my clothes. Black shirts, maybe a little design on it, maybe not, preferably not. And blue jeans. That's all I do. Tapered cut, blue jeans. Now I wear some nice shoes with it just to mix it up. I don't go far from home. I'm a loser. I'm boring. So when I put this on today, Douglas, the first thing I thought, because it is laundry day here, the first thing I thought was like, because I had a meeting as well. I had a meeting and it was laundry day. The first thing I thought is, I better take this fucking thing off before the podcast because Lochlin Cross out in Edmonton, Alberta is going to make fun of me and say, oh, you like avocado toast? Look at you becoming a fancy guy. Did your girlfriend make you wear that? None of those things are true. I like this shirt, Douglas. Can you tell me what it is about the glasses and the hair that make the shirt better? Because I don't have a fucking clue about what you just said. No,
you matched black. Douglas, don't give him any fucking credit for matching black.
You're not Douglas.
No. It's not the matched black. It's a splash. It's the good use of splash of color. For someone,
I don't know what that means. But there you go. Right?
As well.
Ta-da.
I guess it's a bold step forward. Because
the
that's
Star
not
Trek
an
of days for me. What do you mean? Because it's got avocados on it? Like, is this? Take me through the style. This is all I got.
I'm just saying that's sometimes you see something and you think, oh God, who would wear that? And then you walk down the street and you see somebody wearing something and you go, wow, I would never buy that. I would never thought that would have looked good on anyone, but on them it works. So,
see, you're at the starting point I was.
No, but what I'm saying is he could have gone for just like a red stripe or something, right? He went for pattern.
Yeah,
I guess they didn't just go like for like paisley or houndstooth.
Yeah, you need a toast-shaped hat. That's what you fucking need.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that's you didn't just like take the first level. You went a couple levels up.
Okay. You know what? Now everybody's making fun of me in the comment section because I knew this would happen. Like this dude,
plus,
he's like,
you know what?
Where's your fucking toast? I'm like, dude, it's an avocado shirt.
And you know what? In a world,
I like the Grace Jones haircut.
Yeah, exactly. In a world in which guac is always extra,
Yeah.
the fact that you look delicious. Just
Okay.
Can we? That's my friend Douglas. Not only did this, and listen, I've had a lot of DMs from the ladies this week, Douglas. I've also got a few from men, and I take them all with the same equal amount of gratitude. So thank you for telling me that. I appreciate it. Being wanted by both sexes. No, you stop. I'm flowing. When you're wanted by both sexes, you did something right. You did something right.
I need some chips because I like that dip.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Okay, can I just quick thing about patterns? You said I should have gone with a stripe and not a pattern. Is this a pattern? I just thought these were like willy-nilly avocados on a shirt.
No, I didn't say you should have gone with the stripe. I'm saying you didn't go with the stripe. Just like first level, you could have just tried as like a stripe as a splash of color. You went with a pattern.
Yeah.
So like,
are there rules to this? Are there rules to this?
No rules. No rules. Right. It's first of all, you got to be confident wearing it.
Mm.
That's the number one.
Feel great. Totally confident.
That's
feel like $1 million bucks. Right there. Yeah.
And then it's just finding stuff that goes.
I still think it's an awful shirt. I don't care how much longer this conversation goes on. It's not good. It's got avocados on it.
It's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. Not everyone can pull it off, but he can.
Yeah. See, that's what you can do. You know, the other thing that happened this week, because I had these headshots taken, we'll get to them in just a few minutes, which I looked fantastic, by the way, like really hot.
Yes.
Right? Didn't I look great?
Well, you look better. I miss fat Dean. Okay, but I will agree that you did need to do new headshots.
Dude, I'm talking to Douglas about how hot I am. Just give me a minute. What did you think of those?
Fat Dean was way more fun.
Fat
Dean stayed out all night. Fat Dean would get into fights with random people. Like, I enjoyed Fat Dean. There was far more content. Now I got to deal with a guy who wears a fucking avocado shirt onto a podcast. Fat Dean would never have been caught dead in that shirt.
Oh, Fat Dean would have beat Skinny Dean up in a heartbeat. Yeah. I would have grabbed Skinny Dean. Like if Skinny Dean and Fat Dean would have come up to Skinny Dean, sweating his balls off.
Yeah.
Fucking drinking a rye and Coke. And he would have grabbed Skinny Dean. He would have just started beating the shit out of him. Because you know why? You look better than me.
I'm pro Fat Dean.
I miss Fat Dean a little bit. I do. I miss
Fat Dean was fun.
Fat Drunk Dean? He was pretty fun.
Fat Drunk Dean was awesome.
Wasn't he? You didn't meet him, though.
Can we bring on Douglas? Do you mind if we bring on my my secret guest? Because I don't want to keep him waiting, because he'll think that there's a technical issue if we don't bring him on soon.
You mean because that's what you do? All right. This is your guest. So Douglas, just to give you some, because Douglas is here to talk about a couple things with us. Excuse me, I just burped. To talk about a couple things with us. One of the things I want to talk about is because we just got through Pride Month, almost to the end of Pride Month, at a big, beautiful parade this last weekend. Lots of people, lots of inclusivity, and everybody hates the gays in 2023 for some reason. So we're going to deal with that shit, because we need to deal with that shit. It pisses me off. And that's why Douglas is here, but he's also here to have some fun with us. And you like a nice surprise, Douglas. So here's a True North Eager Beaver podcast, one of the biggest news podcasts in Canada.
Actually, Douglas might know this guy.
You might. So Lochlin calls me and he's like, I got a mystery guest for Wednesday. And I'm like, I don't do those. He's like, trust me, you want to do this mystery guest. And I said,
I thought I was the mystery guest.
No, you were scheduled. So he's like, we got a mystery guest. And I said, well, who's the mystery guest? He goes, I can't tell you. And he's one of those guys that like never keeps a secret, because it's fucking physically impossible for him to do it. Because like if you just got to bug him like 3 or 4 times, and he's like, okay, I'll tell you. I had 12 STIs in high school, just 12, stuff like that. So, which is not true. I made that part up.
I didn't get laid till I was 27. You avoid STIs or Ds or whatever they're called. You avoid them when you don't get to put your penis in things.
That's what I hear. Okay, so Virgin Lochlin.
I have nothing to say.
The sexed version of Lochlin sends me a note. We talk, and he's got this mystery guest. So I'm going to let you set this up, Lock, because this is not something I would ever agree to.
Yeah.
But I trust you implicitly. Therefore, you get to do the intro, and don't fuck it up, because it's going to be a good one. I'm excited to see who this guy is. Go ahead.
Okay. First off, I worked with this guy a number of years ago, and I'm going to tell a story. When he comes on, I want to start with a story about something that I did that I'm not proud of.
Awesome.
And it's probably a lot of people are going to hear this story and go, "Oh my God, you might be one of the worst human beings ever." But I need to tell the story because I need to clear my conscience. But this guy is a very interesting duck, and he's doing a couple of things in the podcast world that I think are worth talking about. And he's a bit of a radio legend. His name is Jungle Jim Jerome, and he worked in the business for years. And I had the pleasure of being his boss at K-Rock in the mid 2000s for like a cup of coffee. And bring him on.
All
Jungle
right.
Jim.
Jungle Jim Jerome.
Am I there?
Yeah, you're here. You're here. How are you, dude?
Hey, good, man. Hey, boys, this is great. I guess I can move my mic, right? We're not using this mic. Sounds like the laptop.
Yeah, that's okay. You can do anything with that mic. You can actually throw it against the wall and you still be able to hear you, actually. That's incredible.
Well, this is great to come on. I just tuned in at the moment of putting your penis in somewhere. I think that's what I just heard before he came on. I said,
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the family.
Yeah.
So Jim and I reconnected when he accidentally phoned one of his buddies, and I picked up the phone. I went, Jim, he's like, Jerry, is that you? And I'm like, no, it's Locke. And he goes, I'm not calling Lochlin. I need to speak with Jerry. Do you know where Jerry is? And I'm like, really, Jim? Like, fuck off. So after about 3 minutes of him trying to sort out why my number was under the wrong contact, we reconnected and I invited him on the podcast. I'll tell you the story quickly. When Jim and I worked together, Jim was, we'll say, not on the wagon.
No.
And may have been on a bit of a tear.
Why would you be? Yeah.
And shortly after he got fired and I got fired and we went our separate ways, my phone started ringing, and this was about 13 years ago.
Yeah. And
it's Jim, and I hadn't talked to him for a while. And I pick up the phone and I'm like, Jim, how you doing? And he's going, yeah, okay. But it's been a bit of a rough go. I've had a bit of a rough patch in my life here. And then he starts to explain that he's on, I don't know, what is it, step 7? What's the one where you call and make amends?
Well, I don't know.
What's the number?
They're all of them I do. Okay.
all 12?
Listen, I need to live another 42 years, okay, just to make the amends.
So he says, I'm on such and such a step.
Yeah.
And you're next on my list. So I wanted to call and just say, hey, I want to apologize for anything that I may have put you through while we worked together, because I was a bit of a disaster. And I started to laugh out loud.
Jesus Christ.
Because I couldn't escape the irony of somebody who was going sober phoning someone who was drunk all the time and having to apologize to him.
Yeah. This
has never sought therapy and never will. Yeah. I know the humor was lost on you, Jim, because you were in a moment of forgiveness and trying to open up. But he paused as I'm laughing uncontrollably on the phone. And then he kind of said something along the lines like, this isn't going the way I thought it would go.
Yeah. I'll tell you the way it went.
Please, no offense, because when Lachlan told me we were going to have someone on and we might talk about like addiction, we might talk about getting better, he said he did the worst thing in the world to you and he wanted to have you on to talk about it. But I said to him last night, he can attest to this, Jimmy. By the way, pleasure to meet you. We have mutual friends and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Sure we do.
What I said to him is, hey, dude, if you do this, you make sure you tell a story and it has a fucking beginning and a middle and an end, because he's the worst fucking storyteller in the world. And we just witnessed that yet fucking again. Yep. So I'm going to turn it over to Jimmy Jerome. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the program in a proper manner. Radio legend here in Canada, Mr. Jim Jerome. Ladies and gentlemen, nice to see you.
I'll tell you how big this is, and I'll clear something up about that story. This is a big day, okay? I'm going to put my teeth in. All right, that's how big a fucking day this is right here. Okay, there we go. All right, I don't just do that for anyone, Dino. All right, I just don't do that for anyone. I'll tell you how that story went. Okay.
Yeah, please.
I called them my blurry days, Dino.
Okay.
By the way, you're eager beaver. I'd like to talk to you after we hang up. Okay, I've got some ideas. So I phoned Lochlin. All right, I said, yeah, I owe you an apology, and I kind of had some sort of thought how this would go. You know what? Normally, what you do is you start with the easy ones. Yeah. Okay, you start with the guys going to go, "Oh my God, Jim, don't give it a second thought. You're fantastic. If there's anything I can do, to help you, you name it, buddy." Okay, that's generally how these go, Dino. Okay, these things, and Dean. So,
by the way, I spent a good couple of years making my amends as well, so I'm intimately familiar with the process. But continue. Yeah.
Speaking of making amends, Dino, that shirt you guys were talking about. And it's because some chick apparently that you're dating, or I don't know, that you walk to school or whatever it is. She's either blind or she's a fucking heroin addict. Okay, I know these things. All right, one of the two. One of the two, Dean. Okay.
Hey, you just don't like avocados. You're avocado oppressed.
It's a stupid shirt, Dean.
I know.
It's just get something nice, you know. Little like this. Okay?
Dude, you look like you just stepped off the Princess cruise ship. Like, if you need me to dress like you, it's not gonna happen. I just look like I stepped out of a salsa making video. So we're tied.
By the way, the name of this podcast, when you resend it out, it's live right now. But when it just says all middle. Yeah, you got two guys that don't finish stories. It's going to be a long fucking day.
Yeah. Okay, so Jim, let's try to stay focused.
Light on Ritalin, okay? The problem, a little light. Okay, so just hang on. Anyway, here's what happened.
Yeah.
So Lachlan's one of the first guys I go to, right? You want an easy, you want to lay down, you want a softball. Immediately after speaking to him, I hung up the phone and went and bought an 8-ball and fucking relapsed for about the next 7 years. That's what happened. Okay, that's what happened. That's how good a friend Lachlan is, right? Oh, Jim, don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. Go. We liked you a lot better when you were high out of your mind and drunk. You don't need to apologize to me, Jimmy. You know, let's have a drink, Jim. You're what? Okay, so whatever I racked up, 6-7 months of sobriety was down the tubes. As soon as I talked to this fucker, I'm like, oh my God, this didn't. Get the sponsor. Where's my sponsor?
Jimmy Jerome. Okay, hold it.
He's probably not lying.
Is that a true story? When you called to make amends with him, did he laugh, and did you relapse for 7 years after he joked around with you?
I relapsed in the middle. I relapsed in the middle of what he was telling me when I made the call. I didn't wait to get to the end. I didn't, it was just like, no problem, Lachlan. Thanks a lot. Yeah, we're really, really good to call. Oh man, yeah. Well, I'm glad I called you. That was helpful. Yeah, I put Lachlan down because a lot of these guys. He gave me an idea. You end up sponsoring guys and helping them. And I put Lachlan down as a sponsor just for a laugh, right? To say, give this guy a call, and if you can get through that, okay, you're solid. Okay,
like
you get an instant
Lachlan
chip.
Is
my name on a chip?
He's the ultimate sobriety test. Yeah, if you can get through a conversation with Lachlan after 1 year, you're fucking good. Yeah.
By the way, if you tease me about being technically savvy, Lachlan, but I can see Amazon just showed up at the door with my new typewriter. Okay, they send you the ribbons first, boys. Okay, you get the ribbons first, and then you get the ribbons.
All right.
I'm so glad we did this.
Me too.
Dean, before we go, okay,
yeah, buddy. Yeah.
Lachlan, not a bright guy. Okay,
no,
not a bright
not
guy.
at all. Yeah.
Like a lot of
has a hard time comprehending, putting sentences together. It's amazing. He's had a 35-year fucking stellar radio career, if you ask me.
What's the expression I'm looking for? Retarded. That's it. That's the all right. So here's Lachlan. I talked to him the other day, right? And he's gonna lay all this shit on me, right? About what he's doing and how life's great. And Jim, I know radio better than anyone. Okay, I know what to do. Okay, so I ask about his kids. Okay. So he hits me with, Jim, my daughter's over in Budapest.
Oh, yeah.
I said, what?
Fancy.
Yeah. It's like you and I, Dean, and the other 6 billion people in the world know it as Budapest.
Buddy,
okay?
no offense.
Yeah.
I don't
All
know
of a
how
sudden
long
I
you did
talk-
drugs for, but there are like 8.5 billion
Yeah.
people on this planet. So you're off by 2.5 billion.
She's in Budapest. All of a sudden, I'm talking to Alex Trebek here, okay, with the pronunciation of all the fucking names. She's in Budapest. Oh my God. Anyway.
Yeah, he's fancy. He's a fancy guy, Jimmy. Do you live in Edmonton? You're in Edmonton right now?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. For people that don't know, Jim Jerome is a legendary radio guy, but a legendary MC. And your name came to my mind through a mutual friend of ours. I believe his name is Ian Leggett. You know Lego?
Oh, fuck. I know Lego for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. One of my very close friends. And what people don't know is that Jim Jerome might be, he and Rod Black, two of the best MCs for an event you've ever seen. And you also might not know this, is that they're both, well, specifically Jim. I think Rod is still, Jim, as you can tell, not allowed to MC anything anymore.
That's true. That's true. I got to tell you a great Rod Black story. Okay. I love Rod. Okay. I love Rod. And he was always nervous. You know, we've done gigs together where I'm emceeing and or both are, or he is, and I'm doing shtick after something. This is a dead ass true story. So we're in Edmonton. We're doing a big charity gig for Ronald McDonald House. And it's kind of over 2 or 3 days. So everyone's hanging out and having a blast. And Rod Black, right, is in the clubhouse, finished his round of golf. And I come in, an hour after him. And I'm scorching burnt from the sun. Okay. No sunblock, no nothing, dragging my way through self-locking bathrooms on the golf course, all afternoon. And then I walk in and he looks at me. It's obviously I'm sunburned. And he says, "Hey, Jimmer." Okay, there's some people around, right? And he's kind of looking at them to make sure everyone can listen when he's going to drop this line on me. Okay. He says, "Hey, Jimmer, I got 3 words for you. Copper tone." I said, "Hey, Arby, give me that one again. Okay, give me that one again. You little Jeopardy monster, you." Answer all the question. Copper tone. Okay. Anyway, I love Rod. Yeah, I love Rod.
He's the best. He's the best. And every time we go to the Joe Carter Classic, which as you believe is even today, Rod is the master of ceremonies, always has been, and Lego's always there, obviously, which is how I got to know you. But I had no idea that you spent the majority of your radio career doing what radio people do, which is ingesting drugs and alcohol. Sure. So, welcome to the family, by the way. It's just really nice to have
quite
you.
Effectively.
Yeah. How long you been sober?
So, well, before you do that, this is how ripped I was. Okay. Some guys asked me a record. Okay. I was a drugger, boozer, but mostly drugger. Okay. Heavy drugger, coke addict, coker every day. And I had to do this radio show at 5:30 in the morning when I was in Ottawa. And it wasn't uncommon, fellas, to maybe tick off a bunch of hours in a row before you shut your eyes, maybe like 3 days, right? You would go. And I was so tired. Okay. My stopping point was about 2:30 in the morning. Okay. Put it away, shut the lab down. You got to regroup. You got to get in the car, get downtown in Ottawa and do this show. And I was tired. Okay. There's an actual clip. I wish I could. I'll send it to you. So tired was I that I was talking on air and I fell asleep while I was talking. Okay. When I did this. Yeah. In the middle of it. It sounded like I was taking a dump. Okay. This is how it goes. This is if you ever hear this happen, you're going to say the guy's on blow and he hasn't been to bed for 3 days. Because it sounds like this. I was going, well, anyway, the Ottawa sorry, fellas. Whoa. Yeah, I'm back. Yeah. Live. I fell asleep while I was talking. So anyway, that was then. I heard your question there, Dean. You and I must have met, Dean, somewhere.
I don't think so. I think just in passing, I think we may have missed each other a couple of times, but knew of you, and obviously, through Lego, knew of your relationship and friendship with him.
Yeah.
But hadn't met. But I mean, same thing. It's Lochlin loves to have a couple cocktails, but it doesn't affect his work, right? It doesn't affect what he does.
Right.
And he and I have these long conversations because there are certain people that come out of this industry. It's a valueless industry. They ride you as hard as you can. You're up at 3:00 in the morning. And back when you were doing it, right?
Yeah.
Booze, coke, drugs, everything. I mean, it was
Yeah.
it used to come into the studio with guests. People would bring you that stuff, right? Like that was the time. And people don't understand back in your day, and not so much in my day, because towards the end of my radio career, that's when this stuff started to happen, all the internet shit, right? So you had to be part of that culture. But was that part of you? Did you get sucked into the culture, and where did that start for you? Because a lot of us are the same way. We're really fucked up, and we need drugs and alcohol just to make it through a show or a day.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you how it started. There's a deal when someone's going to talk who's in recovery. You often get asked to speak and share your story, and that's how it works. The people are going to connect when they hear your story. You're going to get to help that guy. It's going to put more bums in the seats of the fellowship, and so the way we talk about it, and it's most people's pattern who end up with a substance abuse problem, is it starts off being fun, then it's fun with problems, and then it's just problems. And I am not the exception to that, rule at all. So it started when I moved out here. I'm from Ottawa. I went to university in Ottawa, and I came out here with a job with Molson as a rep, a beer rep, looking after the Oilers in 1985. Was the heyday. And then I was sitting around a bar, and a guy said, "Hey, do you want to do a line?" And I was always an awkward guy socially. I never quite fit in. I was a little uncomfortable in my own skin until I did that line, and that was the first time. I was probably 23 or 4. And I went, "This is amazing, man. This is amazing. This is amazing." And it should have been, the sign should have been, I didn't know what Coke was. I should have known right away after I did that first line, when I asked the guy, "Hey, can you get me a lot more of that Coke?" Like a lot. I want a lot. Okay. I love this feeling. I'd like to get a ton of it if I could. Yeah. And I'm sure I'll be fine. I'm sure I'll be fine. The more I do will be great. And
because I'll feel better. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll feel a lot better. The more you do, the better. And I guess the next thing is, this guy pulling me. He lost me. Okay. He went to go to the bathroom, and then I was gone after, I don't know, a wheelbarrow full of the powder. And he found me in the fetal position with my head on the side of a toilet in a stall. And I said, okay, that didn't work out. Okay. That wasn't very good. Anyway, it quickly developed into a problem. Probably 3 or 4 years later, typically with someone who's, suffers from addiction. They don't really know it. They don't know what's going on. And the first stage is, I maybe shouldn't do this. And then you end up doing it. And you're saying to yourself, fuck, I said I wouldn't do this. I said I wouldn't do this. What's going on? And then you kind of get the fuckets for a while, saying, "Oh, who cares? I'll just keep doing it." But then it gets worse. You start to miss work. You can't deal with people, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a problem. And the first people to know it was a problem were people, in my circle who had came up to me and said, "Hey, JJ, what are you doing, man?" And that was sort of made me raise my eyebrows a bit. It was never enough to get me to stop. And then shortly after that, in my late 20s, I began to realize I had a problem with it. And so I tried to quit. I tried to start quitting when I was 28 or 9 years old. And I'm not lying, literally. I finally quit when I was 48. So 20, like 20, 30, 40, 20 years of trying to quit. And it just got worse and worse and got heavier and heavier. And I did a stint in treatment in about 2003 when I was doing the show in Ottawa. I had to get into treatment. I went to the station and said, I didn't tell them I was a coke addict. I said, the doctor, I got some tests, and the doctor said I got a bunch of stress and I need to take some time off. And of course, work said absolutely. And then I checked myself in that night. And then I phoned my boss the next day, Chris Gordon. And I said, look, I'm in a substance abuse treatment facility. And he said, way to go, man. And off I went. And that was in 03 or 04. And I got sober. Then I was out here doing a gig. I think it was a big curling gig or something. And I was 9 or 10 months sober. And I wasn't doing anything. I was living what they call the pink cloud, and life was good. And I was on stage. I did a gig, and it was great. And I was walking back to, the green room or the trailers or whatever they had. And I hear this voice, hey, Jimmy, and I turned around, and it was my Coke dealer. And my heart didn't flutter or anything, but this is what happened. I said, hey, man, how are you? Good to see you. And he said, hey, where can we go? The old line to do a line, where can we go? And I paused and said, fuck, man, right over here. Follow me. And that turned into another 7 years of doing drugs, doing drugs.
So it wasn't Lochlin's fault the second time around.
Yeah, I told the dealer he didn't know who Lochlin was. He doesn't understand this, okay? But it's this guy who women no longer give a shit about at all, okay? Who got me into this? No, so anyway, and then what happened? They hear bottoms and all that stuff, and my marriage started to disintegrate. I was a daily user, trying to hide it, making up different lies, all the bad stuff that goes with it. And I at that point I had 3 children, and the worst part of it, people talk about what were your worst days. And one of them was when I got up and said, okay, I can't do any coke, but I have to. Okay. So I have to. I can't get through the day if I don't, but I can't do coke. And I remember that being as, oh my God, look at that dilemma again, and so that was a horrible day. But I think the worst day of my life, I think the worst day of my life was being at my kid's soccer game and saying to myself, to be honest, I wish I didn't have kids. That's where it took me to, that they were in the way. You're either doing drugs, thinking about doing drugs, and my kids are healthy and happy. And of course I didn't mean them dead, but that's where it took me to, imagine, of saying that. And then eventually I got kicked out of the house. My wife kicked me out in 2010. And then August 1st of 2010, I went away to treatment. I was doing the radio show in Ottawa, and I was doing it from my basement. They put a little studio in my basement because my wife wanted to move back here. I started that show in 99, and we moved back. We moved to Ottawa in 97. My dad was dying. I got the radio gig, but she always wanted to come back out west, and that was the deal. And in 07, we came back out here, and in 2010, she said, enough, you got to go. And I remember that Christmas, I had to go find a place. I went and bought a place, and I laid my head down at Christmas going, oh my God, what's happened here? And I went to treatment, and I had to find a facility that would let me do the show. I had the equipment. I forget what it was called then, Lochlin, some sort of telephone line that you just plug into the
ISDN.
Telmex and ISDN. Yeah. That's right.
So I phoned the treatment center. The guy said, pal, we don't let people work. You got to turn in your phone, laptops. We don't. It's a lockdown, full facility, 30 days. And I said, I can't do it. I can't. I've done it before. I'll get fired. And then I said to the guy, I thought the deal was, one alcoholic or one drug addict helping another drug addict. Let me in there, do the show. I'll be done by 9, and I can do all the treatment. Anyway, and the guy let me in. A wonderful guy.
Wow.
They bent the rule, and he let me in. And that was, I got in a plane. I was going through customs in Montreal on August 1st of that year. And in front of me was Snoop Dogg. He had finished a concert. And he had just crushed out a blunt. He looked like Linus, with the dirt all around him, or just the smoke. And he said, "Where?" I said, "Hey." He said, "Hey, physicial or whatever he fucking says. I don't know." And he said, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to treatment." And he went, "Do you think there's room on that plane for me?" or something like that. So anyway, off I went, and that was the last time that I used or drank was August 1st, 2010. So I'm 13 years clean and sober.
Nice work.
Thank you. And
yeah, dude. Wow. I mean, I didn't expect the roll call of how it was, what happened, and how it is. And if you've been in the program, you understand what I'm saying, right? When you go through it, there is a routine, and that routine is for people that go through recovery or try to get some help. What they do is they go back and they tell their story, and not a lot of people tell those stories outside of those rooms, and it takes a tremendous amount of courage, not just to relive your worst moments, but to share them, right? Like to share them with people one-on-one. The fact you're doing this with people on a podcast is mind-blowingly courageous, Jimmy, and even sharing that story. And let me also tell you this: that weakest moment that you have where you're sitting there looking at your kids and you're going, man, it'd be so much easier if I just didn't have anybody. Just people that I didn't have to let down, right? People that I didn't have to crush with my own behavior. I've been there. I think as parents, we've all been there. It doesn't matter if you've done drugs. Doesn't matter if you're an alcoholic. Doesn't matter if any of those things. And dude, I've slept through those rooms. I've been in your seat. I've sat there and looked at myself in the mirror and said, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
And literally knew I couldn't stop. Literally knew that the only thing that would calm this fucking stress in my mind was having a drink. So for you, it was Coke. For me, it's alcohol. For Lochlin, it's violent masturbation. Everybody's got their thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's
I got a special glove, so I don't chafe.
It's the glove that they give fishermen that has the bumps on it. Yeah.
Steel. It's got the steel mesh, so you don't cut your hands with a knife. That one.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. It was. And clearly, because of it, I'm addicted to nothing anymore.
As he lights a dart.
I'll tell you what I learned, though. I spent a few years, like when I did so much drugs, and I used alone, which was a benefit, in terms of recovery. Because
did you ever hoop drugs, Jimmy? Did you ever hoop the Coke? You ever put it up your hoop?
Never did. No,
okay.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. Yeah.
Not yet.
Although there was plenty of room. I just never got around to it. It was good time. All kinds. I could have.
Nice big prison wallet.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? Like, I don't know. There might be people listening in recovery. The best thing ever. Like, I went 2 years just going to meetings. Like 3 times a day. Literally. I went to 3 meetings a day. Noon and 8 o'clock, and a bunch on the weekends. But it was finally a guy. Like, I kept thinking, why do I use? What's the kicker? What's the trigger? Why am I using? What do I have to do to figure this out? And then a guy pulled me aside. He said, "Listen, dude, the amount you use and how often you use has nothing to do with being a drug addict, right?" And I kind of went, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, that has nothing to do with how much you use, how often. What a drug addict is and an alcoholic is. What happens to us when we do drink? What happens to a guy when he drinks?" Which, so we all know all kinds of people, right, who don't drink every day or every week. But when you show up at a party with them, everyone looks around and goes, "Oh, fuck me, batting down the hatches. This guy goes fucking bananas when he drinks," And then when I learned that it is what happens, then I began to soar, when I began to, and maybe it was the same for you too, Dean. I don't know, but
I don't know. It's funny because it's such and I think it depends. I wrote a piece on this yesterday because I often don't have like a very good memory when it comes to what things were like. I just knew I was fucking miserable.
Right.
And it's weird. And I'll show you the picture. This is the after and then the before. This is the one Douglas said I looked hot in. So I'm going to put it up. Thanks.
Wow.
Douglas. Appreciate you. So that's, a couple of weeks ago on the left. And that's me 7 years ago on the right.
Awesome.
And and that guy on the right drank a lot, but also loved a can of cold Chef Boyardee at like 1 o'clock in the morning. Right. That was, there you go. See, Douglas, I told you I'd turn you on. I look like a fucking snack. There you go.
But ironically, I did the same thing, the before and the after. And so you have the before picture of a guy who's about 100 pounds. But the after picture, I put up a picture of Boy George, okay, and I just, show everyone how far I've come, I was transitioning, man, before transitioning was fucking cool. Okay?
Attaboy. Yeah, we all should. No, but I'll tell you this is that I think what happens is that, it comes for everybody. You do the things that people say you have to do. And for me, it's misery. Like my issue was misery. I wasn't an alcoholic. I was a miserable dick. And so instead of actually going out and acquiring tools to conflict resolve, instead of getting therapy, instead of talking to someone about why I was sad and trying to put the pieces together up here, instead of logo therapy, instead of cognitive behavioral therapy, the stuff people do to get better, I'm like, just drink. That'll fix it. That'll figure it out. And I made a conscious effort. And if you do radio, you know where I'm coming from. Radio guys, especially morning guys, when you have to get up at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, sleep is a premium, right? And so I remember specifically the age of 30 thinking, if I drink enough, I'll just fall asleep and then I'll get up the next day and I'm good.
Right.
Like, what kind of ignorant bullshit is that? And then on top of it, you're miserable. And on top of it, you're working in an industry where you're out every weekend. You're at a concert, you're at a party, you're at activation, you're at something, you're at this, you're at that. And so, radio's is party culture. And back in the day, It wasn't just about booze. It was about who's got drugs, who's got a speedball, who's got some coke, who's got heroin, who's got this, who's got that. And fortunately, I stayed away from that stuff. Otherwise, I might not be here because I fucking loved booze.
Right.
But once you get through, dude, it was the best. I was on a sweet run.
Drink, Dean, this afternoon. See if it's okay. Just have a look.
Yeah. My old sponsor and I used to say that all the time. It's like, dude, just 2 rums, we'll be fine. But now I'm at the point where it's like, I just look at it like it's a fucking waste of time. And AA, as great as it was for a good year, like you distract yourself with meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. But there were Sherpas in those rooms that helped me climb those mountains, right? There were people who I saw happy. I don't know about you. There were people who I saw happy. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing in this room happy for? You're in a church basement in the middle of July because you've ruined your life. And I'm like, oh, and I'm sitting right next to you. So here we are. Yeah. And so for me, it was like I started to take off when I truly understood that it wasn't just about not drinking. It was also about all the other stuff. And for me, it was therapy, psychotherapy, no medication, philosophy, specific Stoic philosophy, cognitive behavioral therapy. So that's when I started to get happy. I will tell you that AA kept me away from alcohol for a period of time where I could get my shit together. But the real work started with like investing in myself and going to get answers, right?
Yeah. And you're obviously a friend of Bill W, and what becomes amazing, right, is you go into these rooms and people are telling stories that they would never tell anywhere else, and you don't know them, right? And you begin, and then one day maybe you don't hear it. One day you hear your story. You go, fuck, that's me. That's exactly what was me. And then you get to talk to that guy, right? And that's how it works. The other thing is, I spent a good part of my recovery in those first few years trying to figure out why I drink, and I speak a lot about this and get asked to speak. And it's not always popular, Dean, and Ross and Eager. It's not always popular, but I believe, and I've come to believe that we really, in the end, you don't know why you're using. You think you do, but really, someone will say, well, the reason that guy uses, man, he's had, abuse and sexual and physical abuse that he went through. And then someone says, well, there's lots of people who go through that, but they don't use, so you try and figure out, when is it? Do I do it? And it's like smoking cigarettes, the guy says, well, when do you smoke? Right. And you go, well, I love it in the morning. As soon as the coffee hits my lips, right after a meal, when I drive my car, when I play golf, when I go to funerals, when I'm at weddings, when I travel, right? Next thing you know, you just love smoking no matter what, So
well, it was really hard to tell you're an addict from watching you smoke that cigarette.
Anyway, and just to wrap this up, and
basically had sex with it.
Yeah. Douglas, did you see him suck that back in like 3 seconds? Did you watch that too?
Do you understand what a fantastic gay guy I would be when you see me take down a cigarette? You understand how good I would be? I would be a giver, my friend. I would be a giver. There's no doubt.
Let's ask Douglas.
I want to go buy a pack of smokes now, just watching you smoke.
Yeah, exactly. I got to tell you a great story. Okay, so anyway, I'm getting drilled, whacked all day long. We're doing this show, this AM show it's called Three Guys in the Radio. It's sports. It was what it was now TSN, was the team back in those days. And I'm just getting drilled every day, piling through my day, saying shit on the radio. I didn't even know what I wanted to say. You know, like one day there was the Pride Parade, you know, and I said, well, boys, I went down to the Pride Parade, you know, because you never know, right? You want to check a look. And I said, if a guy's thinking of coming out and he goes down to the Pride Parade and he stands there, goes a few rows back because he's a little nervous, okay? He's a lawyer, for example, and he's waiting for these floats to come by. And all the floats are guys with leather Speedos, ball gags, whips, you know, furry handcuffs. The guy ain't coming out, Dean. He's not coming out, okay? I said, put a float on there with a pair of khakis, you know, some loafers, a little button down, you know, maybe holding an umbrella or something like that, you know. Then I might come out. I go, okay, I can do this, right? So the guy, so I'm ripped when I'm talking about this. And my co-host says, hey, Jim, what if your son was gay? Okay. And I said, if my son was gay, I'd have to love him slightly less than the other children, just slightly less than the other children, right? That was the shit we were saying. Obviously, if you're offended, it was so over the top, you know. But
you were, as you pointed out, you were cracked out and hammered and high. Yes. So yeah. And it's obviously not something you believe in. It was just you high being an asshole and being on the radio. Yes.
Trying to get reaction, you know, attention to see. Anyway, so you guys all know that.
Can you imagine Jim on the radio when there was the internet, like instant contact?
Yeah.
Fired.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, back in those days, you know, I lasted about 2 days on a dating site, and they gave me my money back. I'm like, what? That's the stuff you said, Jim. So here's what happens. I'm grilled. Okay, it's ratings. Everybody knows it's. You know, they come back in those days. I don't know how they are now, but they came out twice a year, the spring and fall ratings. On that day, people are going to get fired. People are going to make bonuses. You don't know what's going on. And in a perverse way, I was so deep into doing dope. And I said, I hope the ratings are down, that maybe the guy will call me and go, hey, look at Scooter. Because our ratings were very high. When the show came on, we were lucky. The timing was lucky. And we were beating FM stations in the same company there. And they were great, you know. And in fact, they were sending a car to pick me up, okay, because I couldn't get up in the mornings, right? And this guy's not, you know, and take me to the show. Anyway, I'm gunned. It's the day the ratings are out, and we do the show, and I'm exhausted. And the tap on the glass of the studio, the manager in my office after, you know. And in those days, I'm drinking a bottle of vodka a day, right, to level off, and I'm doing an 8-ball a day, you know, which is 2.5 grams a day or 3 grams. And the boss calls me in, and I flop on the couch, you know, and I'm going, fuck, I hope, you know, I need something here to get me to try and get clean. He says, Jimmy, I don't know what you've been up to. Okay. I know it's something, but I'm not sure. But whatever it is, keep it up, partner. We went up another share point. I'm like this, Dino. I'm like this, Locke. I'm like this. You start to do the math. I'm like, I can't drink 2 bottles of vodka a day. I can't. What am I supposed to do now? Go to mushrooms and mescaline and all these heroin? Should I jack it in my ass? Like, you know, it's tough to quit, Locke, when a guy says that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Like in radio, you're worried that all the things that make you might not make you. And when you're that fucked up as someone and I was never wasted when I was on the air. I always took that pretty seriously, but man, I probably did about 4,000 shows hungover. So there's that, right? Yeah. Or maybe still half of the bag, but it's encouraged in that industry. Like that's what a lot of people don't understand. And Lochlin, you're still in it. Like, it's like, no, when you're drinking beer that belongs to the sponsor at this thing and you're going to go and intermingle and hang out and have a good time. Obviously, they'd never go, hey, you got to do a bunch of coke with some clients tonight. That's not what that was all about. But radio back in the day, it was just part of the deal. Like, you know, record guys would come in with a band and they'd bring a whole bunch of liquor, a whole bunch of booze, and a whole bunch of drugs. Right. And you would do the interview and guys would get half lit and that would be it. That's what that culture was. Sorry, Locke. I didn't mean to interrupt.
The thing about, Jim is kind of selling himself a little bit short. I mean, I realized that that he was on a tear when when we worked together and during a large portion of his terrestrial radio career. Right. And I think a lot of guys can look back at what they've done and accomplished and they can maybe hyper focus on the things that they had to deal with after they got out of it. And maybe there's like, you know what, man, I there's always this idea that you have in your head that what you're doing to your body or how you're living your life has an impact on you as an entertainer. But dude, you're still fucking entertaining. You always were. I mean, as soon as you landed in the building, I thought we had something. Like when we worked together, and we worked for just an awful company, and it just didn't. They weren't waiting around for anything, right? They had different ideas, so they shit canned both Jim and I. But I mean, like, I get it. I understand that sometimes the substance does have an impact on who you are on the show, right? Mm-hmm. Or it can have positive and negative. But there's, generally speaking, you get to a certain level in our business because of your base, entertainment level. And and you were always fucking entertaining.
And speaking of which, someone who is entertaining, who is receiving so much love in the comment section, is my man Douglas Connors from the True North Eager Beaver podcast. Douglas, are you okay down there? I'm just making sure. Okay, good. You all right? Because I feel bad. You need to obviously tell a story about how you used to do drugs and embarrass your family as well. We've done the same, so you got to get in on it. Now, I know that's not true, but what's it like to sit here and listen to three radio guys, two guys that have been through fucking some sort of treatment, and you're sitting there going,
I like the comments here. I'm seeing them. This sounds like everything's being run by a bunch of pimps.
Douglas, you okay down there? You all right, buddy?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm fine.
All right. I'm just making sure. I'm making sure because it's intense. We're getting intense here.
The only reason I don't have a story about doing drugs and embarrassing my family is because I didn't have any family to embarrass.
Well, I'll give you a couple of stories you can borrow. Yeah. And go try the family next door. Yeah.
So the one show that Jim got thrust into when I worked with him didn't work. And they quickly removed this one piece. It was a very toxic piece. And the boss sat us down and said, we're going to get rid of him and we're going to try to build another show around Jim. And I'm like, okay, good. We're moving in the right direction. So at one point, though, Jim, and the thing about Jim, regardless of what he went through and the times that he struggled with addiction, is he always had a big heart, huge empathy. Still to this day, I know just how he conducts himself now and the things he does. He's got a podcast where he records people's elderly parents and grandparents so to get them on tape so they have something, right? I mean, that's just Jim. Everybody knows him to be that guy. So he comes and he sits down with me in the office and he says to me, he goes, Locke, I'm going to go over there. I'm going to talk to him. I think I can sort this out. Give me his address. And I said to Jim, I said, fuck Jim, this is not a good idea. He's clinically insane. You're making a mistake here. This is not going to work. We should never have put the two of you together, right? Like he has a problem with the world, not just you. Please don't. No, I'm telling you right now, I can sort this out. I know that if I sit down and we go mano a mano, that he's going to see my point and we can make this work, man. And I'm like, Jim, bad fucking idea. Don't do this. Please, I'm begging you. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Trust me. But an hour later, I get a call. The cops were involved. There was a fight. He literally jumped off his front porch.
Yeah.
Like left his feet and tackled Jim.
Yeah. Well, no, you know what he did? You know what he did? I sat down and I said, he goes, what's up? Right away I can tell it's going to go bad, Dean and Doug. I go, listen, Stevie, we need to get along. Okay. Before I get the words out, okay, he jumps on a chair. We're at his dining room table. He steps on his fucking dining room table and lunges at me like a fucking lemur. Okay. He flies through the fucking air, Dean, wraps his hands around my throat and goes, get the fuck out of here. Right. I'm like, I get in my car and go, hey, Locke. Yeah, it didn't go well. I should have listened to you. Yeah, he was insane, that guy. But anyway, radio is the great enabler, Dean, as you know.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. I wonder. Let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you this. Lachlan, I already know the answer. Jim, I want your answer too. I find a lot of people come out of radio with addiction issues because they go into radio trying to hide how they feel about themselves, because that's why they get into radio, to curate these personalities so that they can comfortably operate and be this person that they like without actually having to actually talk to anybody. And that, because that's where I come from. That's how I feel. I feel like I went out and I curated this thing, and in the meantime, I'm at home and I'm drinking and I'm feeling like shit about myself. But for 4 hours a day, I could go and be anybody that anybody wanted and make a lot of money doing it.
Yeah. Well, the big ego for me and the attention seeking, right, is that I have and that I had, it was an ego and an attention seeker on steroids, and then all of a sudden you're on a radio show and it begins to have some success, and someone says to you, "That was priceless, man. You're that's one of the funniest things I've ever heard." I am in, man. I am all in, and but it's not really you, some of it's acting, but I hope I'm answering your question right. But that's true. That is true, right? That you don't really want.
I was a very stable person getting in, and I still am.
No, you weren't.
That's bullshit. It's all a lie. Everything you just said is a fucking lie.
Yeah, we could talk about how it went for you there, Locke. Okay, running some of those fucking meetings, and
not great.
4 people, Dean and Doug. Locklin starts this meeting. He says, "I'm not sure where to begin," and I yell out in the back, "How about in conclusion?" That would be a good start. Okay? That would be good. Anyway,
our meetings didn't go well.
You're 100% right. You're looking for an outlet. And radio certainly provided that.
Well, and here's the thing. And Douglas, I would ask you the same thing, right? Journalism, arts, right? You're into the arts. Is that a lot of us came from weird backgrounds and homes, right, Douglas? And then we get a chance to perform. Do you feel that kind of vibe too? Like, is it, did your upbringing and our upbringings contribute to us deciding to get into careers and hobbies, media, that or what, like you're doing, Douglas, which is you into the arts, acting, live theater, all that stuff? Is it kind of I noticed a similar thread?
Yeah, I think for me it was a little different in that, I mean, it's definitely the upbringing, but how would I put it? I started in dance, so dance was the thing. It was just joy. I have this thing in my head that I'm never happier or I never feel more free than when I'm dancing. So it was at like a happy place, I guess. And I guess it sort of came from there because I was most of the time, from the time I was 9 to about 19, when I was living in that foster home, if the walls were beige, I would wear beige. So I could be the, the least seen, least visible. So this stage thing is kind of really different. Even this podcasting thing is really different because when we were doing it, and that's something I was wondering for you guys, when we were doing it just audio before we started adding video, that was one thing. But then when we started adding video, there's one thing about putting your voice to your words, because I started as a written blog, and then, okay, there's my voice and there's how people react to that. And now it's putting your face and your voice to your own words. And it just seems to me that, I don't know, when it's just back in the days when it was just your voice, was it maybe easier to make that difference? Because today, with social media and with video, people see what we look like, and they can see what we look like from day to day, whereas before it was just what we sound like. And we share other things about ourselves now because it's 24-hour, right? And it's daily, and we're producing content. And plus, there's more.
I find I'm way more effective as an asshole with video. I don't know why. It just it has much more impact, Doug. So I know where you're going, but I enjoy this because it's just so much easier to be a prick.
Well, let me touch on that, Douglas. First of all, Lachlan's correct. He enjoys video because it's easier for people to visualize his assholeness. They don't just get to hear it. So he likes that. But what you're talking about is hiding, right? And that is what radio guys do. And you know this, Jimmy. That's what we did better than anybody else, right? Oh, yeah. And I can tell you this, is that, my upbringing greatly contributed to the idea that I could somehow sanitize my work existence, which I did, right? Which you did, where you're like, I want to blend into the beige. I want to blend into the background, because I was in all kinds of control with this thing in front of me and four walls, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
What I couldn't do, because I didn't have the tools to deal with life, because I would blend in, because I was afraid, because of my upbringing, because of the things that I did not acquire as a young man. And then someone gave me hundreds of thousands of dollars at 26 and then millions in my 30s to avoid growing up, to avoid dealing with those things, right? And it was easy because guys like us that had money, we could literally throw money at the problem to not grow, right? Like we could, I'm not going there. I'll just pay this guy so I don't have to do this. I don't want to go to therapy. I'll just get drunk and go instead of going to therapy. Or I'll get an 8-ball and not have to worry about it to take myself out of my misery, right? Like that is what a lot of people in this industry, Jimmy, are dealing with when they get out of the industry, whether it's radio, whether it's traditional media, whatever it is. For a long time, you were able to hide behind a voice, a show, a brand. And then when you got out in the real world, that's where the fucking rubber met the road, right? Like which is what everybody that has an addiction issue. And it's the one thing that they share. And you mentioned it when you talked about doing that one line in the bar where you're like, oh my God, I found confidence. I feel great. Now I can exist in the world and feel like this, but I have to bring this thing with me. Is that ringing true here to anybody?
Well, yeah. It sure is to me. Yeah, there's no doubt. By the way, I see one comment here. Were there any women alcoholics or drug addicts in radio? And of course, Terry Evans, right, comes to mind when I think that.
Jerry Forbes.
Oh my God! I gotta
Brother Jake.
You know what's interesting now is I think we're getting into a time where people are way more comfortable sharing things about themselves, right? So you almost get rewarded in the world that we live in now if you have a fault or if you have some sort of issue with a substance or whatever. So we get a lot of people in our business now that are stepping out and saying, you know what, I'm going to deal with this now. Right. So I think people sort of nip it in the bud a little bit quicker now. I've seen a lot of younger jocks on social media admit to, and they'll take breaks, mental health breaks from the business and things like that. I think that's a good step. Unfortunately, I wonder about the damage that this industry has on broadcasters now. I was actually telling Dean a story last night about somebody that I know that is currently in the business and works for a company that on occasion will fire 5 to 10% of its staff. And just knowing some people that work in that industry and for that company, they're on edge and they're coping the way people cope with stress, right? With a variety of different things. And I think we're going to get into a bad time here in the next 5-10 years if this continues, because I don't know what kind of support these individuals have from these companies that could give two flying shits about.
Well, do you remember Jimmy's story?
Staff.
Remember Jimmy's? Yeah. And I had the same story. I used to mock people that used to take like mental leave from the radio. I'm like, you fucking serious? You're going to take a leave from the greatest job in the world? Like, are you joking? And then Jimmy's like, he tells a story about how he's just gummed, like he's yammed, Coke, bottle of vodka a day, and his boss is like, just keep doing it because our ratings went up. We got extra share.
I don't know what you're doing, but
we're gonna make more money. Right. If they could keep the taps on, they would, because it's a valueless industry. That's what it is. Right?
Well, and there's always that boss that knows there might be a problem too, right? Like I was aware that Jimmy was a bit of a wreck. Right. But I mean, I don't have the capacity to sit down and have a conversation with an addict. I'm an addict. I'm not going to sit down and help you. And are you going to listen to me? No, fuck no.
I'm not listening.
So I was just present, just try to be present as a boss, which doesn't work because I'm an asshole. But like in this business, you'll get different varieties of leaders where they're aware there's something wrong and they may want to help, but they don't have the tools to help. Right. So we don't have a lot of strong leaders in our industry, and those leaders generally are just as drunk or just as fucking have a drug problem as the guy they're trying to get something out of creatively, in the morning slot.
Yeah, and I think we got to be careful, that I'm making this sound like radio, and working in the broadcast world, you're more susceptible to addiction than anybody else. And that's not the case, as we know. No one's immune to it, right? No one's immune to addiction. So I see some comments here. The person's right that it is a disease and it can be helped, but the only way to do it, my experience, perhaps yours too, Dean, was the only way to kick it was to get help. Yeah. I tried for 20 years. I'll do this on my own. I'm smart. I know right from wrong. I know this deal, and I'll try and, I'll handle it. But it never worked. It never worked. So
one of those guys. It's like one of those guys. It's like, hey, listen, I got to tell you, I've been doing coke for 20 years. I don't have a problem.
Right.
Yeah. Jim, how much of your circle of friends, how much of a negative impact did that have on your ability to, because I know you hung in some pretty heavy circles, right? I mean, you do that, you still do that. Do you still do the Wayne Gretzky and the mess camps every year?
Well, those are done, right? Those are done. Gretz did that fantasy camp and they're over. But listen, I'm name dropping, but I have to tell you that, I got a phone call every day from the great one, every single day when I told him I was in treatment and I got out. That guy phoned me every single morning, and said, "How are you doing? Keep it up. I'm proud of you." I had unbelievable support. I really did. Like I said earlier, though, I was lucky. I used alone. I wasn't a party guy. Like, let's get out amongst a bunch of people. I would go to the bar, smash back a bunch of rusty nails, and then go home and stay up for 8 hours. So the reason I say I'm lucky, so when it came time to recover, I didn't have to get rid of a bunch of friends. Like a lot of these guys, you got to change your whole lifestyle. So I was lucky. I was lucky that I was like, no, now I can reacquaint myself with all those people. But those guys, and you would know all their names. You can guess who they were from the 80s of those guys. They were unbelievable when, and so was family and friends and anybody else, to have your back. I remember one of them said, "I'll walk with you, dude. I will walk with you the whole way through this." It was beautiful. It was beautiful. So
that's what you find, right? It's kind of one of the things you find in those times when you need friends the most is grace. Such a fucking great word. I love that word. Is the grace of people along the way that are like, "Hey man, I'll call you." And to find out that, and we all know who your friends are, obviously, with being from where you're from, to have guys like that take time out of their day. I mean, that's graceful. That's like a pretty incredible thing, right? It's humbling.
Some of the best, funniest things I've ever heard where I ran to get a pen and a paper are at those fellowship meetings, right? I remember someone getting up, crying, saying, "I just want to drink a bottle of vodka a day like a normal person." Or the other dude, Locker, the other guy got up and said, "I got my grade 6, but I never did anything with it." I'm like, anyway.
Are you allowed to be telling those stories? I remember one time I was telling an AA story on a podcast, and I got about 20 emails after from people going, "How dare you?" And I'm like, dude, I didn't use any names.
Jim skates on a different pond. He gets away with stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim, do you want to plug? Because you're on a couple of podcasts. Do you want to give that up? Do you mind, Dean, if we give his pods?
No, please. Yeah. And then we'll chat after. And I want to get on to some stuff with Douglas. So, and then we'll let you get about your day and maybe have you back if you're interested. But yeah, please plug away.
Thanks a lot. Well, I'm doing a few podcasts. I'm doing one with a guy I worked with in radio in Ottawa after he got let go. SWP. It's just a fun one we do every week. The other one I do is with a retired NHL player, Russ Courtnall. It's called The Suspendables, and we've been doing that. We do it every week. And if you haven't listened to it, and
I've seen that one. That's a great pod.
Yeah, and if you want to listen to a former NHLer who has no filter and is completely outspoken, it's cool. It's cool. And the biggest, like Russ, is we get, I don't know, 10, 12,000 listeners a week. And then Kevin Martin phoned me, the curler, like the Wayne Gretzky of curling. He wanted to do a curling podcast. Like, there's over 1 million podcasts, right? And the Russ one is tough, right? There's 1,000 hockey podcasts, but we started doing this curling one a few years ago, and now we have 80 or 90,000 listeners a week, and it got picked up by Sportsnet, and so we're happy as shit. It's a you know, a little wee ship, you know, that came in. But what has taken up all my time, and it's become full time, is, you know, guys, all of us wish we would have had our grandparents on tape, you know, talking about their life. You know, how cool would that be, right? Or great grandparents or something. And so my kids, my dad was very accomplished, and my kids, who were too young to know him when he was alive, asked me about a year ago, do you have any tape of Grandpa? You know, talk. And I said, fuck, I don't. You know, I don't. And so I started going to guys of our generation whose perhaps their parents were alive. And I said, why don't I record your mom and dad's life story? And then, you know, every generation, obviously it's archived, their legacy, and talks about their young life and yada, yada, yada. And I started doing it. It's a face-to-face thing. I do an interview, a recording device, 2 microphones. And I started doing it, and I'm completely run off my feet doing it. It's the kids who are running at me, saying, not if you can do it, but when can you do this thing? And so I started doing it, and it ends up being riveting stories from, you know, some of these people I do are in their 90s, talking about growing up in the late 20s and 30s. And it's become you know, it was a bit of a side gig. But all the kids love it. They love it, and they want it done. And so what was a hobby has turned into full time. And so I do that. I do it in person. Although I did my first one online, sadly enough, a friend of mine, you know, I travel with it. Generally, I go back to Ottawa, in my hometown, Sudbury, and I've been doing them steady. I've probably done over 20 of them. They often go 5 or 6 hours. You know, we sit down, do an hour at a time when they're tired. And then a friend of mine phoned me who's dying. He's dying. He lives in Phoenix, and he said, I want to do it. I want to do my life story, and I got to get it done, man, in the next 2 or 3 months. It was a very surreal moment. So I did one online, and it worked. I didn't think it would work very well, but it did. So anyway, yeah, thanks a lot for asking. Yeah, but if you want to get your life story done, you know, I've been interviewing people for 30 plus years, and I've gotten pretty good at it, and we get a lot out of them. Even if your mom or dad are a little ambivalent, you know, about doing it, they got way more to say than
oh
you
my
think.
God, you're the fucking
you're one of the
perfect
best
guy for
interviews.
this.
Again, Jimmy
Jim.
Jerome is one of the best interviewers you'll ever meet. What's the name of the company?
Well, they're just called Life Stories. It's under my name. Yep, Jim Jerome, no company.
Okay.
Life
Jim, how can people get a hold of you if they want you to go interview their grandparents?
JungleJerome@yahoo.com.
You got a Yahoo account, huh?
You got a Yahoo account.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's like,
Just send me a note, and I'll get you. He's the last guy on the planet with a Yahoo. I didn't even know fucking Yahoo. They're gonna unplug Yahoo soon. You might want to get a Shaw. Maybe call them.
Yeah, can they hit you up on MySpace too when they're done with that?
Google. What is it? Google me.
Google Jimmy Jerome.
Yeah.
How did we know that this guy was the best guy to interview your grandparents? He has a Yahoo fucking email.
Just call me. I'll give you the cost and all that.
All right.
The deposit is an 8-ball. Okay.
Bottle of vodka.
You know, I just like to have it there sitting beside me, you know.
Sure.
So
yeah.
Just in case.
Jim Jerome. Listen, buddy, I'm gonna tell you something. This was an absolute pleasure. Lochlin knocked this out of the park. I might do this again. I got a lot out of it, and I hope everybody listening did. You know, this is a crazy life that we live, and to waste it feeling sorry for yourself as opposed to moving forward and listening to you talk about your life, that everybody else has the same opportunity to live that life. As I know is true, as you know is true, there's promise behind some kind of sobriety and some kind of moderation, making good decisions in your best interest. Jim, great to meet you. Great to have you. And let's have you back if that's okay.
I want to be a co-host. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. Whatever you want.
When Laughlin's out doing whatever he does.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Bring him back on.
We never knew what he fucking did as a program director, so I don't know why.
We don't know what he does as a podcaster. He just shows up.
Thanks,
Jim, great to see you. Talk to you soon. Jim Jerome, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for this.
Yeah, great guy. Did you like that, Douglas? Sorry, you were a bit of a passenger for that, and I apologize, but that is that's a heavy story. That's an honest story.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. No regrets whatsoever. That was a privilege.
Oh, Well, thank you. I got a little sweaty when he started talking about the Pride Parade stuff. I was like, oh, does he know?
Oh, well,
Douglas?
what you got to do is you got to buckle down with Jim and you just got to ride it out, right? Because
remember he was born in 43, right?
Yeah, he will get to the other end, and it may be a little bumpy on the way there, but you can't help but feel you can't help but like the guy, right?
Yeah.
He's from a different. Hey, he hung out with all the Oilers. I mean, he's his best friend is Wayne Gretzky. Like it's he golfs with these guys. It's just another. Well, Dean knows. It's just another level of life, right?
Yeah.
Like
stories that other people don't have, right, Douglas? You know,
Right.
and to hear those,
Absolutely not.
Go ahead. Sorry.
But it's more than that, right? It's, when he was talking about the three phases, that it's fun, and it's fun that it comes with problems, and now it's just problems. As I've seen it from the other side. My best friend, well, not anymore, but we had a friendship of 26 years, and somewhere around year 20, he decided delving into that and selling it was a good move. And you see someone go down, and you see someone circle the hole, go down the drain, right? Circle the drain, and there's like literally nothing you can do.
Well,
you talk to them, you try to appeal to them, you try to, and you watch it happen, and you almost watch it happen in slow motion, and it's not easy.
Well,
it's not easy both ways,
and even to share the stories, right? Like that's a story lock. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's interesting, Douglas, from the perspective because, you can watch it and you can see what's happening. You may even be able to predict or even suggest that it's not a good idea. But until that person decides for themselves that they need to, I think that's a moment where most people get from the addiction perspective. I'm going to take this step, but this is my decision. It wasn't. That's why I always find the interventions hard to watch because, or, be involved in.
Dude, I was invited. So I get invited to an intervention a couple months ago, and I've done a few, and I hate them all equally. Like everybody,
they don't work.
Well, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Do they?
Sometimes, yeah. I would say half the time. Half the time they work, half the time they don't. But I'm of the extreme variety, right? Like I'm that guy that like says, in your case, Douglas, your friend, I'm gonna go on this journey. I'm gonna do drugs and just be a fucking hammerhead. I'm like, go ahead. I have no interest in doing it. So anyway, went to a recent intervention. It's like 2 months ago. Everybody's around. I'm sitting in the corner. Everybody's like trying to tag me in. I'm like, no. Like this is for him. That's not for me. Right? I'm no specialist. Right? I am, but I'm not. And so, these people are begging this guy, please for us. And every time someone said that, I was like, fucking shut up. So at the end of it, I looked at him and he looked at me and I hadn't said a word. And I go, you tired? He's like, yep. I said, okay. Do you want to go get help? He's like, nope. I go, okay, buddy. Love you. See you soon. I got up and left. That was it. There's nothing you can do for anybody. Nothing. But
at least that lets someone know.
Yeah.
That when they are ready, they can come to you.
Absolutely.
But that's not.
Well, and we've also learned today, don't call me on, what is it, step 7?
Yeah, don't call Lochlin and make amends at all.
But
add Dean to the list too.
Yeah, no, it's a weird thing because I remember with my friend, my friend also loved to drink a good amount, and I'm not a big drinker. And if we're in a bar and there's no dancing, I really don't see any point for me being there because just standing there and watching other people.
Why do I need to go to a bar with Douglas?
Not particularly interesting.
I need to go to. That's a night.
He's fucking awesome.
Dance my ass off.
Oh,
Like this, and I don't see 3PO dance.
No?
I'm soaking wet when it's done.
Okay, it's fully committed. You probably look like my mom in a muumuu. Like she's just like shaking everything fucking God gave her.
Atta girl.
I'm the cool uncle at the wedding.
Attaboy.
So, but like for the first 2-3 years, the people were trying to tell me stuff. Your best friend, and it's like, okay, this guy likes to drink, but this guy doesn't even like. I mean, we've been friends for 20 years. I've seen him smoke a joint 3 times.
Rookie.
Like, he likes his booze, but not drugs.
Yeah.
Right. And then comes the part where life starts to get messy.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden, he's got a whole bunch of new friends that are interesting.
With dirty fingernails, motorcycles.
Well, I don't know about that, but just, you know,
Dirty fingernails.
Interesting behaviors and tics, and you know, and very popular all of a sudden. And then he's always working, no matter what day of the week it is. You know, sorry, gotta go to work. And then all of a sudden you have a play and the theater's literally 3 minutes walk from where he lives, and you're on for 10 days, but he's your best friend in the whole wide world, but can't find one evening to come. And then there comes that moment when you're watching it where you realize that your best friend is no longer your best friend.
Yeah.
And again, sometimes
he's someone's son, and he's someone's dad, someone's, you know, friend, someone's boyfriend, someone's like, and you know what? There's a codependency issue there for a lot of people. Like, and it's really difficult to let go. Some people that have issues, right? But like, it's literally sometimes the most important thing you can do for them and yourself.
I had to do at one point, like, because he got into trouble. Somebody tried to attack him physically, sent him to the hospital for a bit, and then eventually he got arrested.
Drug trade's a tough game.
But here I am at one point, you know, like this, I'm in his apartment like this after the police have like taken all the pictures and whatnot, and I'm like cleaning blood off, you know, the walls, and I'm thinking like, how the hell did I get here?
Yeah, that's tough.
How the hell did I get that I'm in my best friend's house and I'm cleaning blood off the walls because he got stabbed? You know, and now he's going to jail, and now I'm like making sure that his bills are paid so he doesn't lose everything after like being ignored like for 5 or something years, because like maybe now he's going to get help, and maybe now I'll get my best friend back, and it doesn't come back.
Maybe not today. Maybe he'll get it together. Maybe it will. It's not yours to do, right?
We are friendly. We are friendly. But he's not my go-to who I call anymore.
You know what's interesting about where I'm at right now, and just sort of seeing the progression of people's addiction and my own even, right, is that it has an impact on people's, not just their looks, but also how they think. And that's the thing that I think that we don't talk about enough. Right. And I've witnessed people change over years. And I'm not just talking about boozers. I'm not just talking about cokeheads. I'm like it.
You talking about the weedsters too? I'm
talking about the
dump on
chronics.
Cannabis.
No, I'm talking about those daily guys. They get up in the morning, sit down with their coffee, and they roll a bag of joints and head out. And that's like I grew up a hippie, so I grew up with that being a very accepted substance in my circle, family, everything. And I remember it always just really fucked me up. And I was always a drinker, so I'd have a toke and I'd throw up, and I'm like, this is no fun. So it never stuck with me. But just watching guys that smoked every day, and then are in their 40s, and then are closing in on their 50s, and Dean and I we talked about this. We sidestepped that Coke era.
Yeah.
Like Jim told that story about being in a bar in 1985 and doing a line and not knowing what it was. Back at that point, I didn't start seeing it until I was a little bit older, and I knew that it would be a problem for me, so I avoided it. But everybody that's like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years older than me that went on a run with that stuff, it changed them and how they think and their chemical makeup. And man, listen, I got enough issues I got to deal with, but I'm grateful that I did not get on a Coke bend.
You ever done Coke, Douglas?
Nope.
Doug's a very clean living boy.
Yeah. You've had this incredible life.
Like most people, I've had, opportunities presented to experiment and stuff, but no. It's
I avoided it too. It's and people can't believe it when they're like, you've done coke, right? I'm like,
sorry,
no, never.
Sorry, not know that I didn't experiment. I've like many people, I've tried a few things, but it wasn't a thing. I had 1 or 2 years where like I like to dance, so rave culture.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and whatever goes along with that.
Molly.
But it was, for me, it really, anything substance that I took, I realized very quickly that dancing was really my drug, always was. And anything that I took was for like just to give me enough energy or to stay awake to last and nothing more. And it was only on the occasions that we went raving, and it was never sort of like, oh, that's fun, let's get some more and do it at home when we're at the privacy. And but I remember one night being out with friends, and like people were clearly flying, and I couldn't understand like how it is that they were having these feelings and I wasn't. I guess, and then I realized that I'd taken about like 1/15 what everybody else.
Yeah.
It was like, wait, you started the night with 2? It's like, oh, I took a quarter and that lasted me the whole night.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing.
I kind of realized it was not my thing.
You didn't have you had like zero tolerance, which is awesome. That's a good thing to have. Yeah.
It was not my thing.
Anybody that I know that had a real substance abuse problem, generally they talk about, oh yeah, I was able to do a boatload of it right out of the gates. Like some people just have a chemical makeup where
I hate those people so much. It's like the same guys that like you and my buddy Dave McLeish, who has like, several beers or several drinks a day. And then you see him like the next morning and he's 7 o'clock, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. Great to see you. How you doing? Nice to see you. I'm like, I fucking hate the fact that you can do that, because if that's me, I'm getting up in the morning going, fuck you to everybody that I see, because that's how it affected me. And so when I hear guys like that have this incredible affinity for like drugs and alcohol, and they're fucking incredibly successful, I'm like, God damn it. Why didn't I get that gene that like you can do any drug and drink any drink gene and still be a happy person? That is all I wanted. Didn't get it. So here I am. That's the deal.
Yeah. I think the thing with me came from the thing with alcohol, though. Because I was raised in a home that had alcoholism, and my first boyfriend was an alcoholic, and my best friend. I never liked when people were drunk around me. There was something when people got sloppy that made my skin crawl, made me feel icky.
You got to nip that in the bud and get drunk before them. That's my strategy.
Nobody told me that. So I never wanted to look like that. So with everything, I always had this rule, this thing in my head that once you put it in, you can't take it out. So don't start with a lot.
You could use that for a lot of things, Douglas.
Yeah. Yes.
You should almost write that on the whiteboard behind you.
So it was one of those things. It was sort of like, okay, I like more. I know what happens with more because I've seen it with alcohol, and more is never better.
No.
There's a point where people like, you have 1 or 2 drinks, you have a good evening like this, but then it's like, oh, 4, well, let's have another one, 5, 6, right? It's like more is not better,
especially when it's brown juice. When it's like rye or bourbon, more is fighting. That's like all that is like, we are fighting if I drink brown juice. Vodka, I'm going to bed. That's it. Rum, I'm having a great time. Rye, whiskey, we're fighting. Let's go. Yeah. You, me, who am I fighting? I'll fight anybody on brown juice. That's when, the drinking goes off the rails. Because each alcohol has a different issue.
Yeah, I think for me, I was always too afraid of losing control.
Mm-hmm. That's the problem I have with psychedelics, because I was on my way into Lollapalooza in 1992, and somebody handed me some acid, and I took that, and I still to this day can't listen to Ministry, and it was the longest day of my life. I was just like, I want this to stop. I don't need, like, there's something controllable about my alcoholism. I've always maintained. But I have a problem with the brown juice as well. I drink beer and wine, and I get my buzz, and I can walk away, go to bed, function the next day. Should I be drinking every day? Probably not, but I do. But if that's why I don't keep any brown juice in the house, because if I have a bottle of rye downstairs,
Fight juice.
I can drink that entire bottle, and I don't know when to stop. I've gotten into, that's when I've had messy nights, is when I'm like, oh, you got Crown Royal Black. All right.
Let's have a great time.
This in a while. Let's go.
Ooh.
Right. And then it's 11 hours later, and
here we are.
Yeah. I'm passed out in my backyard.
Yeah. See, and for booze, I don't know what it's like. I don't know what it's like to be drunk. I've been
delicious
inebriated twice, where I wouldn't
really
once so much that I wouldn't let myself near a toaster. But other than that, I've never been drunk.
Toasters are dangerous.
You've never been drunk? You are missing out on quite an experience. I've only been drunk 20,000 times in my life.
Yep. And I was always afraid. I've seen what people were like, and I've never wanted to look like that.
Oh, you get a brain fog for days after. You feel sick and nauseous. There's all kinds of beautiful shame that comes with it. It's awesome. I love it. I used to love going out and having a great time and coming home and having my ex go, what did you do last night? I'm like, fuck, I couldn't tell you. It was the best time ever. Yeah, you really missed out. Lachlan's not like me, though. He's the guy that can have like 5-6 beers and pretty much remember everything. Although it's the hangovers, dude. At this point for me, it's the hangovers. I have zero desire to feel like shit one more day in my life because I'm 50 years old. So like, there's no effort to me living my life this way.
If I
you
can,
say you don't get hungover, but you know how many pictures you've sent me with you taking a dump?
Oh, I get hungover. I don't get hungover, but I can cap it. Like if I have 4 or 5 beers and I shut it down, I will not feel hungover. I'm at a point with my alcoholism where if I don't drink, like if I miss a day, I'll feel like shit that next day.
That's a good sign. Keep going, dude. Most people that are talking like this do it in the comfort of a therapist's room. And you're like,
I don't have a therapist.
I can't stop drinking. Otherwise I'm going to get the shakes. I don't have a problem though. Everything's good.
I've never had the shakes either. I swear to God.
Yeah, that's when it's a problem. Douglas, you're shaved. You haven't shaved. You looked so good last week with your play outfit, your makeup. I almost don't recognize you with that scruff. Are you okay?
Oh yeah, I'm okay. I'm sort of getting back to my natural me. Although my beaver sweetie wouldn't mind if I kept it off for a bit, but I've had to take. It's one of those.
Does the hubby not like the scruff? Would he prefer no scruff?
The bigger beard, he's okay with it, but it had been several years since I'd been clean shaven, and I was more often when we were first dating. So it's sort of like, oh yeah, it's like you are a little cutie under all that type thing. But I have one of those little electric ones that I wasn't blade shaving. So basically 2 days after I do it the first time, I'd have to do it again, and my skin was getting a little rough. So I might do it a few more times over the course of the summer.
Like shave it clean? You should. You look like $1 million. I almost didn't recognize you in one of the pictures. I'm like, oh my God.
I cleaned up pretty well.
Yeah, you cleaned up really nice. And I wanted to get to a big subject today with you. We were going to talk about the anti-LGBTQ sentiment over the last month because of...
We should almost save that. Are we going to give it enough time?
Well, I want to have you back. Can you come back Friday? Can you come back in 2 days?
Sure.
Because I feel exactly like I feel like we're not going to give it enough time because you and I had several conversations. We tried to get you on the show last week. You were very, very busy. I've been all over the place, and maybe we'll get Paulie in because he's kind of in the green room. I just noticed him. Hey, Paul, sorry, I'm not gonna bring you in though. Just let you know. Otherwise we'll be here forever. I know you. But I want to have you guys back. He said, all good. That's what a lovely guy. But I want to have you guys back to talk about that because, like, to watch the vitriol after we've all been re-engineered and re-educated to understand inclusiveness as society this last month. I was floored by it, Douglas. Like,
that's
floored.
Weird.
Were you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's one of those things, right? I know that a lot of it is troll accounts and fake accounts, especially like the Muslim accounts, right? Most of these are started by white Christian people and pretending that they're Muslims that are having a problem. But then what happens is you put it out there, and then you see some actual Muslims coming up and starting to protest, and you can tell that they're being preyed upon. You can tell they're being preyed upon because education's provincial and they're protesting Trudeau right off the bat, right? And I find it, I've got all these conflicting emotions because I'm saying like the same people that had that were saying, hey, let's have a barbaric cultural practices stitch line are now trying to cozy up to the same people that they're saving for last, clearly, in this scenario, because what they have in store for us is the same thing they have in store for them, except they just haven't been here as long to figure it out. So they're preying on that. So that part I find disturbing. I find disturbing that we're seeing people protesting at schools and at libraries and making places unsafe. I'm very disturbed that the new candidate, the new MP for Portage Lisgar ran openly on conversion therapy, given Garnet Genuous a new buddy on the benches of the CPC. I find it amazing that the CPC still have Garnet Genuous in the party. After they shipped him off to Latvia so that they could have the unanimous vote banning conversion therapy. And they sent him with another MP, Abdul Zaif, I think, to make sure he had a chaperone so he didn't come back in time. So these things bother me to no end. And then I see what's going on stateside, and there's about 500 bills that have been introduced all this year through various states to try and restrict rainbow rights in some type of way. It's an onslaught. It feels like we're slipping, but in another way, it's not my first rodeo, not my first stampede, and this is a similar play.
But I also think it's a minority, right? I think it's not a representation of
like an operation. You don't think it's like the movement? It's more of an operation by a select few people.
There's the whole portion of it that's an operation, and then there are the people buy into it, right? Remember when that whole that stuff in the United States, where that was like one person was creating a protest for Trump and a protest against Trump in the United States in the same city, and they retraced it back. It was the same person with the same account, from somewhere. So some of that is that, but some people did show up to those protests, right?
Yeah.
Well, and
I think that this is what's going on. It's a similar play. Sure. And the thing is that because everybody can be a content producer, because everybody has one of these, has a video camera, it's like, are there more? Are there not more? Just more vocal? But they're definitely emboldened. Ones who are vocal are emboldened.
Somebody opened the door. And I don't know where it got cracked open, and it became acceptable to make these type of statements and step out, and there seems to be, I don't know, there seems to be a camp, and the membership is growing, and I don't know what happened. It was kind of like the Bud Light thing, right? And this is not a great example, and it's not the same thing, but when Kid Rock released that video and it went viral of him shooting all the Bud Light, and all of a sudden everybody was like, oh, okay. Yeah,
that really shoot anything.
This represents this. Yeah, that represents this. And then all of a sudden we're like, okay, Kid Rock can do it. But do you know what I'm saying, Douglas? Like it seemed to like open the door and go, oh, I can be a redneck dick. Oh, there is an avenue for that.
Right. Well, that's the thing, is because this thing here and this thing here, which works so well for us to help us organize, also works for them, right? It's a two-way street.
Yeah.
So now they can find all the people in the world that they want to tell them that they're not the ones that are wrong. It's us that are wrong.
Yeah.
You know what?
On top of that, now with this, they could hear only people telling them that they're the ones that are right and we're the ones that are wrong. Whereas before, back in the day, if you had an opinion like that, somebody would tell you, and who was around to tell you, who was around to validate you.
So
who could you run
let me ask you something, because we're going to talk about this at length Friday. We'll wrap this up here in a couple minutes. But I'm going to ask you this respectfully, obviously, because you're my friend first and foremost.
Please. Yep.
But as a gay man who has seen the before, right, where it was illegal to get married, didn't have same-sex benefits, et cetera, couldn't get all the stuff. It was illegal to be gay in your lifetime in this country, right? Basically,
essentially.
No.
Well, you were not considered.
You were not a full citizen, though.
You were considered an illegitimate Canadian for the better part of our ridiculous anti-gay existence and colonial and spiritual and fucking super religious existence as a country. Okay. Is it fair? Is that fair to say?
It's fair. I came out in 89, so I'm a little later than, 69, 70, but Trudeau said what he did in 67, and the last person to be jailed for homosexuality was released in 71.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So but in almost in our lifetime. So then you see this wonderful awakening when it comes to inclusivity, marginalization. You see teams, you see people and companies, and then you start seeing these flags on ATMs, on buildings. You go downtown, they're everywhere. You can during the Toronto, very accepting, very open. And you're like, okay, great. And then this year, you start seeing people take those flags and record themselves stepping on those flags, defacing those flags, showing up to places that you frequent or other people like to enjoy, to tell everybody they're sick and tired of the flag. The flag is oppression to them.
Yes, and us shoving it down their throats.
What do you? Are they?
Interesting choice
question,
of words.
Are they just the softest losers? Good one. I got that one.
Well, they also talk about us penetrating young minds.
Yeah.
Again, interesting choice of
Well,
words.
of course it is. Yeah, because they want to paint you as the worst person in the world, which you're not. You're one of my very good friends, and you've got values and virtues that I share. You and I are very similar people, and we know that. And I love you for it, and you love me for it. And we're friends, and we work together. But I was I can't say as bothered as you. I was as disgusted as everybody else that loves somebody regardless of whatever the fuck they want to do and who they love, because I thought we made it. Like, I thought we got to a point where we're like, okay, everybody settle down now. There are gay people in the world. There are straight people in the world. And if you don't talk about it, you're just people that get together. But what has the reversal of that been like for you to watch specifically? Because to me, it's just fucking, I don't get it.
I don't know if it's a reversal. That's a tough one.
Well, it was a certain
pendulum swing.
Yeah.
It's more like a pendulum swing.
Yeah.
Right? We went from no rights to lots of rights and lots of social change quickly, which brings the predictable backlash.
They're trying to correct it because it went too far for them. Right?
Too far, too fast.
Yeah.
Right? And the thing
I'm not giving them an out. I'm just saying that's what I agree with you. Yeah.
But this is a predictable thing. It goes for all things.
We see it with politics all the time.
It goes in 20-year cycles. So 20 years of progress, 20 years of sliding, 20 years of progress, 20 years of sliding, 20 years.
Yeah.
It's generational, right? But the thing is, it's the exact same play, because all the things that they're saying about trans people, like, for example, well, trans people, we do that. Maybe they're going to start, if we accept that people identify as whatever, like this, well, what stops them from identifying as like animals? It's like, well, that was the same thing you said about us. If you let a gay man marry another gay man, what's going to stop him from one marrying his dog? It's literally the same playbook, the same arguments.
How fucking unoriginal or idiots
like this. We can't let Boy Scout gay men be Boy Scout leaders or big brothers because they're going to be in the same room with other boys. Now we can't let trans women in girls' bathrooms.
Yeah,
because of little girls, right? It's literally the same. I've seen this before, right? None of this is shocking or surprising in terms of its content. What's shocking and surprising is the ability with which it is able to be manufactured and circulated and met with approval. Because if every village has an idiot, all the villages are connected and the idiots have found each other. Oh, yeah. It's pretty much what's going on.
Yeah. That's a great way of putting it. They've now got a tent to crawl under, and they all found each other.
It's in Alberta.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not always Alberta.
Yeah, but so in that sense, it's weird. In another sense, we're seeing all the support, which is great. Yeah. But it's that there's a thing that's going on right now where people don't know their place. And when I say don't know their place, I mean it in the sense that when we're talking about that man from Kelowna who was watching the track meet and saw that young girl
Kick everybody's
with the
ass. So he
hair.
went over and asked about her sexuality. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm thinking like, again, it's like, even if you had a question about that, where do you get off thinking it is your place to stop the proceedings, make a big scene, and you personally demand for your satisfaction that you get to see some child's papers?
Did he get a beating? Like, somebody please say out loud that
No.
he got a beating.
No, he didn't.
No.
He's like this 60-year-old
it's like-
musclehead loser. Yeah.
In what, and clearly he had no problem with hormone replacement therapy for him.
No, yeah, he's
or
totally
gender affirming care
Yeah.
for himself.
Yeah, and for a guy protecting kids to ask a 9-year-old to see your genitals, I'd say that's quite the opposite, if you will.
Jesus.
Like, or papers. Yeah, and I'm thinking, like, in what world do you feel you're entitled to that information, especially on demand? Number one, like, who raised you to think that that's possible? That's a thing. And number two, if you really did want to make an issue of that, isn't the process to write a letter to the track field, and
Which is still bad.
to start a process, which is still terrible.
Yeah.
But it's not like we don't have a process if something like that had truly genuinely happened. But number three, it's like you're literally okay with your face and your name being out there associated with these words.
That's where I'm wondering.
You think
And
this is a good look?
when we talk about this on Friday, there's got to be something that triggered this. Like, I don't know what it was. Was it, like Linda was saying, it's Trump? Like, what is it that opened up the door for somebody to suggest that this was a good idea? I don't get it. Like,
it was people turning around and saying not no matter how big the mass was of people that would flood, that would ratio them to sound, you can't say that. There was a group of people, there was enough to tell them, no, they're wrong, and to validate them in that.
So that is a great place to tell people we're going to come back on Friday with my man Douglas Connors and his co-host from the True North Eager Beaver, Mr. Beaver and Mr. Grizzly. That's Mr. Beaver. He's going to be back, and we're going to talk about Pride Month and how all these people feel so threatened by a flag. And that man, who's one of the most beautiful human beings you will ever meet in your life. So we'll see you Friday. Is that cool?
Absolutely. I'll be there.
All right, my friend. Talk to you soon.
See you.
Good to see you. It's always a joy to see you, Locke.
Love you, brother.
That's
Talk to
great.
you soon. Take care. Oh, yeah. Big hug. Douglas Connors, True North Eager Beaver. I love that guy so much. He is the best. You know how many people love him in the comments section? Not a word about how much they love us. The whole thing was filled with, like, more Douglas, please. And I'm like, oh, okay, I got to get him in. People want more Douglas. So we're going to have a lot more Douglas on Friday. He's a very good man. Yeah. Appreciate you doing this. Thanks for Jimmy Jerome, too. That was fun.
Yeah. I'm glad we did that. I did need to clear my conscience on laughing at him when he called.
For sending him back into 7 years of drug addiction hell.
He was
by laughing
exaggerating.
At him. Appreciate you doing this, brother. Lachlan Cross, 957 Cruise FM in Edmonton.
Take care, brother.
Every weekday morning. I'll talk to you soon. At Lachlan Cross on Twitter. That's it for us. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Appreciate Jim Jerome for stopping by. Appreciate Lachlan for setting that up. Always appreciate Douglas, the True North Eager Beaver podcast, available at crier.co. Our podcast is always available at crier.co, along with a litany of stories from one of our 40 bloggers and 120 different podcasts. So go to crier.co and check us out today. We really appreciate it. Thanks to our friends at Cantork for making this possible. Cantork, rugged, hardworking, beautiful torque wrenches. They make Canada's leading industrial tool experts, offering you the very best in sales, service, rentals, and calibration. Listen, if you got a bolting solution and you're in some kind of heavy industry like nuclear, railroad, steel, the oil patch, if you will, doesn't matter. If you need these guys, they're there. They make these torque wrenches no one else makes. They make them in Canada. If you've got a bolting project, they've got your solution. Canadian made, Canadian manufactured, Canadian owned. My very good friend Colin Livingston will be here. I'm going to golf him at the Indy as well. He's the owner of the company. Go to cantork.com, hit the learn more button. Make sure you leave a message if you're looking for help. He will help. Also, our friends at Ed's Fine Imports. We wear Gitch, so should you. Gitch, engineered for any level of performance as well as everyday life. Buy 3, get 1 free. Use promo code GITCH3 at checkout. These are incredible underwear. Not only are they super soft and barely there, they're moisture wicking and luxurious. That's right, luxurious, with the pouch in the front. Bunch of colors. Guarantee you'll never buy another pair of underwear again. This will be your deal for the rest of your life. Go to edsfineimports.com. Gitch, engineered for every level of performance. Go there today and check it out. Have a great day, everybody. Appreciate you being here. We'll see you tomorrow. No, not tomorrow. Friday. See you Friday.